إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد، أيها الأخيار، اخترت موضوع اليوم لأننا جميعا بحاجة إليه، وخاصة أصارحكم لأني سمعت أن الأولاد في إجازة، فأرجو من أولادنا خاصة أن ينتبهوا وأن يستمعوا جيدا لما أقوله. والواقع سأقول ما أقوله، بل خطبتي اليوم عبارة عن قصص واقعية، وأروي هذه القصص من أجل أن نستحي نحن من أنفسنا. أريد أن أخجل نفسي وإياكم بهذه القصص. هذه هي الحقيقة. Today's topic, I have chosen it, and I'll be frank with you, specifically because I knew that kids are off school today and that we'll have more children with us today. Although the topic is relevant to everyone, including myself. And what this topic is, or what this sermon, this khutbah will be, is basically me relating to you some real stories. And the purpose behind these stories is to make me and you shy, to make us ashamed of ourselves. It is to put me and you on the spot, for us to ask questions about ourselves and how we are living our lives. الذي دفعني إلى هذا الموضوع هو ما أراه وما أسمعه عن عقوق الوالدين. أمر محزن، شيء لا يكاد أن يصدق. حالنا سيئة. Basically, I'm telling you what really has driven me to the topic of today is what I see and what I hear of the horrible way that we deal with our parents. It is absolutely sad. It is unreal what our condition is, what our state is with our parents. Seeing all of that, and because we have so many of our youth, our young ones with us today, I wanted to talk about this subject. لنبدأ. أبدأ بقصة ليست من الماضي وإنما من الحاضر. رجل يحكي لنا قصة حصلت بينه وبين شيخ. يقول هناك شيخ وهو ما شاء الله من أهل الصلاح فيما نراه. يقول هذا الرجل سألته مرة، يعني هو الرجل الآن يسأل الشيخ: هل أغضبت والديك يوما؟ هل أغضبت والديك يوما؟ فطأطأ رأسه وقال: نعم، مرة واحدة. سمعتم يا أولادي؟ الشيخ الآن بيقول مرة واحدة في حياتي أغضبت والدي، أغضبت أبي، وأنا نادم على ما فعلت طول عمري. يا رب أكيد عمل شغلة كبيرة. يعني هذا الشيخ الآن يقول أنا أغضبت أبي مرة واحدة في حياتي، وأنا طول عمري كل حياتي ندمان على ما فعلته. معناته إيش؟ معناته عمل شغلة كبيرة، يعني عمل شيء لا أحد يصدق. يقول الرجل: فتعجبت على هذا الندم، لأنه أغضب أباه مرة واحدة، يعني ربما عمل كبيرة من الكبائر تستحق الندم طول الحياة، طول العمر. فأردت أن أستفسر عن سبب غضبه لأبيه، فسألته عن ذلك فروى لي القصة. الرجل الآن يقول لي: شيخ ترى أنا لازم أفهم أنت شو اللي عملت حتى تغضب أباك، بدي أفهم. So let's begin. Let's begin with a story not from hundreds of years ago, but from a story that is very recent. A man is relating to us that he knows a sheikh, and mashallah, from what they know of the sheikh, he's a very righteous man. So he says, one day I asked him, Sheikh, have you ever angered your parents in your life? Have you ever done anything to tick your parents off? And the sheikh responds to him saying, yep, once I angered my father, and I regret it, and I will regret it for the rest of my life. Do you understand? He said, I did something to upset my father, and now here I am. For my entire life, I'm going to regret what I did. What do you understand from that? What do you think when you hear these words? You must think that, wow, he must have done something very serious. He must have done something so bad that now all his life he feels regret for what he did. So this man says, now I was curious. I wanted to know what this sheikh did to tick his father off. So I asked him, would you share with me what happened? I'd like to learn a lesson from that. So he related to me his story. Now this is the sheikh speaking. هذا الآن الشيخ يتكلم. يقول الشيخ: كنت يومها صبيا وقد عدت إلى البيت وأنا أحمل في يدي كيسا فيه تمر، يعني الرطب، وهو مفتوح من الأعلى، وعند وصولي إلى الباب خرج أبي فرآني أحمل كيس التمر فقال: شنو هذا؟ يعني ما هذا؟ إيش اللي بيدك؟ فأجبته على الفور: ما تشوفوا التمر؟ يعني أنت مش شايف؟ أنا بيدي تمر. يقول الشيخ: ذهب أبي لقضاء أشغاله، وأنا دخلت البيت وكأنه لم يكن، وكأن شيئا لم يكن. وبعد فترة عاد أبي فدعاني قربه وبدأ يحدثني. So now this is the sheikh telling this man who asked him what happened. He said, well, this happened when I was just a young man. I was a boy. I came back home. I was out and I came home and I had a bag in my hand with dates in it. And the bag, it had dates in it, and the top of the bag was open. So when I got home, my father met me at the door and he asked me, what do you have? What is this? What's in your hands? The sheikh says, I gave him an answer right away. I said, what, you can't see? He says to his father, can't you see what's in my hand? It's dates. He says, My father then left. He had some work to do, and I went in the house as if nothing happened. Life is normal. And when my father came back, he called me to sit next to him, and he started speaking to me. عاد الأب إلى البيت يقول الشيخ فدعاني قربه وبدأ يحدثني فقال، يعني هنا درس ليس للأبناء فقط وإنما للآباء أيضا. أولا، تصور أيها الأب أو تصوري أيتها الأم، رأيت ولدك بيده شيء وسألته ماذا عندك؟ فأجاب شو أنت أعمى يعني ما تشوف؟ ما هي ردة فعلك؟ كف ولا كفين؟ صح؟ هكذا ردود أفعالنا. فاسمعوا ردة فعل هذا الأب. وبدأ يحدثني فقال: الله سبحانه وتعالى، والله إننا لنخجل حينما نسمع مثل هذه القصص. يقول هذا الأب: الله سبحانه وتعالى عندما خاطب موسى عليه السلام قائلا: وما تلك بيمينك يا موسى، ألا يعلم الله أن في يد موسى عصا؟ شوفوا كيف الأب يؤدب ولده. قلت: بلى. قال: وأنا عندما سألتك عن التمر فأنا أعرف أنه تمر، ولكني اسمعوا يا أولاد، اسمعوا يا أولاد، هكذا أبواكم، آباؤكم وأمهاتكم هكذا. يقول هذا الأب لابنه: أعرف أنه تمر، ولكني وددت، يعني حبيت أن أكلمك في هذه أحببت أن أكلمك. يعني الأب بس يبغى يتكلم مع ولده. أنت لما تدخل البيت وتطنش أبوك وتطنش أمك، والله لا تدري كم يحزنهم ذلك، كيف تكسر شعورهم. الآن يقول الشيخ: فهذه المرة الوحيدة في حياتي وأنا كلما أتذكرها أبكي على ما فعلت، وأنا وأنت كم مرة أبكينا آباءنا وأمهاتنا. هذه أول قصة. Let's continue. Remember what he says to his dad? And his dad goes, finishes his work, comes back home, calls his son close to him, and he now starts to speak to his son. And here there's a lesson not only for the children, but also for the parents. For the children, it's obvious. How is it that we're supposed to speak to our parents? How should we treat them? But for the parents as well. If our children do something that we're not pleased with, how do we respond? And here I ask parents, imagine now your child comes home and they have something in their hands, and you ask them, oh, what do you have? And it's obvious what they have. You can see, like this young man who walked in, this boy who walked in, and he had dates in his hands. It's obvious what they have, but you still ask, so what do you have? And your child responds to you saying, what, are you blind? Can't you see? How many smacks upside the head would you give the child? 1 or 2, right? Because that's the way we respond. Or you respond with some pretty harsh words. But I want now for us to listen to how the father responded. هنا درس للآباء. Here's the lesson for the parents. So dad calls his son, sit down. And then he says to him, you know, in the Quran, Allah tells us about what he said to Musa alayhi salam. Ma tilka biyaminika ya Musa. Allah said to Musa alayhi salam, what is that in your right hand, O Musa? So the father is reminding the son, Allah said this. Then he says to the son, so what do you think, that Allah didn't know? Allah wasn't aware of what was in the right hand of Musa alayhi salam? Obviously, Allah was aware of that. The Shaykh says, I responded, of course. Of course Allah was aware. So dad responds, that is when I asked you what was in your hands, obviously I could see, I knew what you were carrying, but I just wanted to talk to you. I just wanted to talk to you. Do you hear me, kids? Look, how often do you walk into the house and you don't even say Assalamu alaikum, you don't even greet your parents. You walk by them as though they're invisible. And in this day and age, most of you walk in the house while you're on your phones. Those apps that you're on, the friends you're chatting with, they take priority over your parents. You have no idea how this breaks your parents. You have no idea how sad that makes your parents. Are you happy that your parents go to sleep crying? Your parents go to sleep, some of us, wallahi, I hate to say it, but some of us, our parents may be going to sleep thinking, why on earth did I have kids? Why did I have kids? Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakil. Hasbi Allahu wa ni'mal wakil. These are lessons, and important lessons, that we need to remember. You know what the Shaykh says? He says, that's the only time in my life that I've angered my father, and until this day, I regret it. I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. The Shaykh did it once. And this is what he did. For most of us, this isn't a big deal. Like, what's the big deal? No, it is a big deal. And do you know why the Shaykh considers it a big deal? Because he knows what Allah says in the Quran about parents. Because he knows what the Prophet ﷺ said about parents. كثير منا ينظر إلى مثل هذه القصة ويقول هذه يعني وش القصة يعني؟ ما هي بكبيرة؟ لا هي كبيرة وتحسبونه هينا وهو عند الله عظيم. ليش الشيخ هذا رأى هذا الموقف أو رأى ما فعله كبيرة من الكبائر؟ لأنه يعلم ما وصى به الله جل وعلا الأبناء. ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حسنا. يعلم ما قاله النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. رضا الرب في رضا الوالدين. هي كلمات كبيرة، كلمات ثقيلة. The Shaykh thought it was a big deal because he remembered what Allah says in the Quran. Allah orders us in the Quran. He doesn't say, it's a good thing if you were to do this. He doesn't recommend. He doesn't simply advise. He orders, he commands. You have to be kind to your parents. And the Prophet ﷺ, do you know what he said? He said, the pleasure of Allah, رضا الرب. طيب يا جماعة ما هدفك في هذه الحياة؟ هو رضا الرب. كل واحد منا يريد أن يرضي ربه، لأنه إذا رضي عنك ربك أدخلك الجنة. رضا الرب، تريد رضا الرب؟ رضا الرب في رضا الوالدين. The Prophet ﷺ said, the pleasure of the Lord, if you want Allah to be pleased with you, and here let's ask ourselves, what is your goal in life? Your ultimate goal. I don't mean that you want to become a doctor or that you want to become whatever. This is not what we're talking about. You and I as Muslims, here we are living in this world. What is my ultimate goal? What is your ultimate goal? You should be able to answer that question. The answer to that question is, we want to please Allah. We want Allah to be happy with us. Do you know why? Because if Allah is happy with us, He will enter us into Al-Jannah. Because after we die, there's only one of two places we can go to. Either to paradise, to Al-Jannah, or to the hellfire. May Allah protect us from that. So, Rida Rabb, you want to please Allah. The pleasure of the Lord, the pleasure of Allah is in pleasing the parents. You want Allah to be happy with you? Make sure that your parents are happy with you as well. طيب. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يوصي أصحابه أيضا ولأنهم أحبوه نفذوا وصيته. And you know, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم was always advising and admonishing his companions. And because they loved him, they paid attention to what he said and they acted on it. What he advised them, they did. هذا هو أبو هريرة رضي الله عنه وأرضاه. وكما قلت في البداية، أروي لكم هذه القصص لنخجل ولنحزن على أنفسنا، ولكي نراجع حساباتنا مع آبائنا وأمهاتنا. شغلات بسيطة جدا، ولا تكاد تجد من يقوم بمثل هذا. اسمعوا لأبي هريرة رضي الله عنه وأرضاه. كان إذا أراد أن يخرج من بيته، يعني مش رايح سفر بس يطلع من بيته، كان إذا أراد أن يخرج من بيته وقف على باب أمه فقال: السلام عليكم يا أماه ورحمة الله وبركاته. بس يا أولادي، أنتم لما تطلعوا من البيت ولا تسلموا على آبائكم؟ مش عيب عليكم؟ أنا بدي أسألك سؤال. طلعت من البيت ولا حكيت لأمك ولا لأبيك ولا سلمت على أحد، طلعت ورجعت فإذا بي أبوك ميت، أمك ميتة، إيش شعورك؟ فكروا جيدا، والله فكروا جيدا. يحصل نسمع من الناس يقولون: والله آخر كلام أذكر قلت لأبويا لأمي كذا وكذا، والله أنا ندمان، ليش ما حكيت له، ليش ما فعلت؟ طيب، أنتم الآن آباؤكم أمهاتكم أمامكم وتطنشوهم، مش عيب؟ شوفوا أبو هريرة يقول لأمه: السلام عليكم يا أماه ورحمة الله وبركاته، فتجيبه أمه: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ورحمة الله وبركاته. والله هذا الآن يسحبني إلى موضوع آخر، بس الوقت يجري، شو بدي يساوي؟ إن شاء الله في وقت آخر. هي الكلمات وحدها: السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بالله عليكم، فهمتم هذه الكلمات؟ أتدرون ما معناها؟ السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، مش هاي ولا باي، كلمات لها معان. على أي حال، هو يسلم عليها بكل أدب واحترام، وهي بكل فرح وسرور لأنها عجوز وتسمع صوت ولدها، ترد عليه السلام. ثم يقول أبو هريرة رضي الله عنه وأرضاه: رحمك الله كما ربيتيني صغيرا. يتذكر فضل والدته عليه، وتقول الأم: رحمك الله كما بررتني كبيرا. ماذا أقول؟ قلت لكم أنا الآن أحكي هذه القصص علشان نخجل أنفسنا. I said that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he trained his companions. He advised them, he spoke to them. And because they loved him, they used to carry out whatever they could of what they heard from him, from his advice. One of them, by the name of Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu wa ardah. Listen to what he did. And you know what? Some of these things are so simple, and yet we don't do them. And yet we don't do them. Abu Huraira, when he wanted to leave the house, he used to stand at his mother's door and he used to greet her with the salam. Assalamu alaikum, mom, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you, O mother, and may the mercy and blessings of Allah be with you. And then she would respond, wa alayka salam ya waladi, and peace be upon you, O my son, and may the mercy and blessings of Allah be with you. If it wasn't because we don't have time, I would stop right here and only talk about those words. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Many of us, we simply think that saying assalamu alaikum is like saying hi, bye, good morning, good evening. No. The words that I said, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're quite meaningless. What does hi mean? What does bye mean, for God's sake? But assalamu alaikum. Do you know what these words mean? Do you know how precious and how valuable these words are? Do you know when you say these words, what you are actually asking for? That's a topic for another day. In any event, he greets her with salam before leaving the house. And she responds to him. And then standing at her door, he says to her, may Allah have mercy on you, O mother. You nurtured me and you looked after me when I was young. He remembers each time and appreciates what his mother did for him. And then she responds. She responds to him, and may Allah have mercy on you. May Allah have mercy on you, because now when I'm old, you are kind and dutiful towards me. Didn't I say these are simple things? Imagine you do what so many of us are used to doing today. We walk out of the house and don't even bother saying a word to our parents. You don't even say assalamu alaikum to your mom or dad. You don't even tell them that you're leaving the house. Imagine now that you just walk out, don't bother with your parents, and then you come back and mom or dad, one of them is dead. How would you feel? How would you feel? Believe me, I've heard many people talk about things like that. Maybe you have as well. People saying, oh, the last words I said to mom, the last thing I said to mom or dad was such and such. Oh, I wish. Well, it's too late. But you know what? Most of you, your parents are with you. It is not too late for you. It is not too... Learn from these stories. I'm not telling you these stories to entertain you or to pass time. As I said to you at the beginning, it's for us to reflect, for us to be ashamed of ourselves, to put ourselves on the spot. Where am I? What am I doing? من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه وأرضاه. طلبت أمه في إحدى الليالي ماء فذهب ليجيء بالماء فلما جاء وجدها نائمة فوقف بالماء عند رأسها حتى الصباح. والله ما أدري. هؤلاء كانوا يخافون من النار، ونحن ما حالنا مع آبائنا وأمهاتنا؟ رضا الرب في رضا الوالدين. نحن كيف نعامل آباءنا وأمهاتنا؟ اسمعوا ذهب ليحضر الماء لوالدته، دخل عليها وهي نائمة، فماذا فعل؟ ترك الماء وطلع؟ لا أبدا، وقف بالماء عند رأسها حتى الصباح. ليش؟ طيب ليش ما أيقظها؟ لم يوقظها خشية إزعاجها، ما بده يزعجها، هي نائمة. طيب صح هي طلبت الماء بس نايمة مسكينة، خلاص اتركها تنام. طيب ليش ما راح؟ ولم يذهب خشية أن تستيقظ فتطلب الماء فلا تجده. ما أيقظها لأنه ما بده يزعجها، وما طلع لأنه خايف، هلا أمي حتفيق من النوم وبدها ماء وطلبت مني الماء وما أنا موجود أعطيها الماء. يخاف ربه. وليس غريبا على ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه أن يفعل ذلك، لأنه هو الذي روى ذلك الحديث عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. يقول عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه: سألت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أي العمل أحب إلى الله؟ فقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: الصلاة على وقتها. قال: ثم أي؟ قال: ثم بر الوالدين. قال: ثم أي؟ قال: الجهاد في سبيل الله. فليس غريبا على مثل عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه وأرضاه أن يتعامل مع أمه بهذه الطريقة، لأنه يعلم أن بر الوالدين من أفضل الأعمال مما يرضي الله سبحانه وتعالى. Speaking of the companions, listen to what Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhuma, listen to what happened to him. It says, one night my mother asked for water. So I went out to get water and I came back, but when I came back I found her asleep. She was sleeping. So I stood there with the water until the morning, until she got up in the morning. I know what we're asking. I know what's in our minds. Why would he do that? Just wake her up, give her the water, and get the heck out. Or just leave the water and walk out. She'll deal with it when she gets up. No. He tells us why. He did not wake her up because he didn't want to disturb her sleep. Do you see what love for parents looks like? Mom is sleeping, dad is sleeping. Let them be. Don't make noise. Don't wake them up for no reason. She asked for water, yes, but she fell asleep. So he decided, I'm going to wait. When she gets up, I will give her the water. I don't want to disturb her while she's sleeping. So why didn't he leave the water and just walk away? Because this is mom. That's not how you treat a mom. He waited till the morning because he was afraid that what if she gets up in the middle of the night and she's looking for the water and she asks me for the water and I'm not there to give it to her. How would that make her feel? And it's not strange that somebody like Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhuma, that he would do such a thing. Because one day he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell me about the best of deeds. As Muslims, what is it that we can do that is most beloved to Allah, that is dearest to Allah? What things does Allah love the most? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the salah at its time. To pray, we're talking about the 5 daily prayers. To pray on time. He said, and what else? He said, and that you're good to your parents. Right after fulfilling our duty to Allah, the parents come immediately after Allah. Not TikTok, not your friends. Parents. After Allah, your parents. Understood? What's next? Then they said, to fight for the sake of Allah, to be a soldier, to defend the religion of Allah. واسمعوا هذه القصة. ابن الحسن التميمي يهم بقتل عقرب فلم يدركها حتى دخلت في جحر في المنزل فأدخل يده خلفها وسد الجحر بأصابعه فلدغته. فقيل له: لم فعلت ذلك؟ قال: خفت أن تخرج فتجيء إلى أمي فتلدغها. والله نخجل أمام مثل هؤلاء. And here's the story of a man known as Ibn al-Hasan al-Tamimi. He saw a scorpion and he was chasing it because he wanted to kill it. But he wasn't able to, it entered the house. He followed it, but it crawled into a hole. So Ibn al-Hasan, what does he do? You're going to think it's stupid. You know what he did? He stuck his hand in the hole. And he kept it there, and he kept the hole closed with his fingers. And the scorpion bit him. You're thinking he's an idiot, right? Like, why would you do such a thing? He was asked about that. Why would you do such a thing? Like, why would you stick your fingers in the hole and you know there's a scorpion in it? He said, because I was afraid. If I didn't block that hole, that scorpion would crawl out and my mother would be around and would come and bite my mother. In other words, I prefer being harmed than my mother being harmed. Didn't I say that we need to be ashamed of ourselves? طيب يا أحبابي، هناك قصص كثيرة ولكن هناك قصة مؤثرة أود أن أقصها أيضا. There are many stories. Actually, I have lots to say still, but I'm going to end with one more story. كان أحد الدعاة في زيارة لإحدى الدول الأوروبية. كان هو جالسا في محطة القطار ورأى امرأة مسنة، يعني وحدة عجوزة عمرها يعني تقريبا 70، تمسك هي تفاحة بيدها وتحاول أكلها بما بقي لديها من أسنان. تصوروا هذا الموقف. So there's lots more stories I thought I'd share, but I'm going to end with this one. So this is a man, a Muslim man, who was visiting one of the European countries, and he was there for the sake of da'wah, to teach people about Islam. He finds himself waiting at a train station, and as he's sitting there waiting for the train, he sees an elderly woman, about 70 years old. And she has an apple in her hand, and she's trying to eat the apple with whatever teeth she has. Not too many teeth, obviously. So he's watching her. I want you now to take a moment and try to picture that. طيب ماذا فعل هذا الداعية، هذا الرجل؟ جلس بجانبها. حينما نتكلم عن الدعوة يظن البعض أن الدعوة كلها محاضرات وخطب. لا يا أحبابي، قد تكون الدعوة بالعمل بالفعل أقوى بكثير من الدعوة بالكلام. أخذ التفاحة الرجل الآن، هذا الرجل المسلم يجلس بجانب امرأة عجوز. امرأة، نعم، حن مسلمين مو معناته المرأة خلاص ما نقدر نقربها، كل شيء له حد. هذه امرأة مسنة عجوز، جلس بجانبها وعنده غرض، يريد أن يخدمها، يريد أن يساعدها، لأن له أما فينظر إليها. صحيح هي غير مسلمة ولكنها امرأة عجوز والرحمة في القلوب. أخذ التفاحة وقطعها وأعطاها للعجوز. ليش؟ عشان يكون أسهل إلها في الأكل. فإذا العجوز تنفجر باكية، فسألها لماذا تبكين. All right. Now this man gets up and sits next to the old lady. Yeah, a Muslim man sits next to an old lady. She's not even Muslim. We as Muslims have to understand that everything has boundaries and limits. Just because it's a woman, it doesn't mean he cannot deal with her. If it was a young woman and he just went to chat her up, no, that's problematic. This is not what this is. She's an old lady. Clearly she's struggling. So this Muslim man who knows what Islam teaches goes next to her. And he takes the apple. Can you give me that apple, please? And he cuts it up into pieces for her and hands it back to her so that it will be easier for her to eat. When he did that, this woman burst into tears. Burst into tears. And he asks her, what's the problem? Why are you crying? فقالت يسألها عن ذلك فقالت منذ 10 سنوات والله ردها يا سبحان الله ردها ما نراه في الخارج أنا كثيرا ما أزور المستشفيات وأسمع مثل هذا تقول منذ 10 سنوات لم يكلمني أحد ولم يزرني أولادي وأنا أعرف قصة حصلت هنا الابن اتصلوا به وأمه تموت قال أنا فاضي بس لما ماتت وجاء وقت استلام الميراث ما شاء الله أجا أما الوالدة لما ماتت قال أنا فاضي إلها على كل حال ما أحد من أولادي يكلمني من 10 سنين ولا يزوروني وهي تسأل فلماذا فعلت معي هذا الفعل. So he asked her, what makes you cry? I'm sorry if I offended you. She says, no. 10 years. In 10 years, none of my kids have spoken to me or even visited me. And you know something? This is not uncommon. I visit the hospitals often. And how much have I heard people speak this way, talking about how their kids don't visit them. I think I mentioned this story before. It's happened in this very city, where a Muslim woman was in the hospital, she's dying. They called the son, and the son said, sorry, I'm busy. Didn't come, and she died. But when it was time, because the lawyer contacted him that, hey, you have an inheritance, then mashallah, he was free. Then he came to take the inheritance. Anyways, the woman then says to him, my kids don't do anything for me. Why would you? What on earth made you do this for me? اسمعوا لإجابته قال إن الدين الذي أتبعه يأمرني بذلك ويأمرني بطاعة الوالدين وبرهما وقال لها في بلدي تعيش أمي معي في منزلي وهي بمثل عمرك وتعيش كالملكة. ها يا ناس أمهاتنا تعيش أمك تعيش مثل الملكة عندك أنت أجب لنفسك فلا نخرج إلا بإذنها. ها يا أولادي اسمعوا يقول لها كيف نعامل أمهاتنا فلا نخرج إلا بإذنها ولا نأكل قبل أن تأكل ونعمل على خدمتها أنا وأبنائي وهذا ما أمرنا به ديننا. فسألته ما دينك؟ قال الإسلام. فكان هذا الشاب سببا في إسلام هذه المرأة الكبيرة في السن. Let me end that story now. She asked him, what would make you do this for me? My kids don't give a hoot about me. He said to her, it's the religion that I follow. My religion orders me to do this. My religion orders me to be good to my parents. And then he says to her, you know, back home, my mom lives with me in my house. And she's around your age. But you know what? She lives like a queen. How about you guys? Your mothers live with you, right? Does your mother feel like she's a queen? Let me tell you how your mother feels. You don't have to ask her, I will tell you. She feels that she is your servant, that she is your slave. She has to do everything for you. That's how she feels. كأنها ملكة خليني أنا أجيبك. أمك معك، هل هي تحس أنها ملكة؟ لا، أنا أجيب عنها نيابة عنها. هي تحس بأنها خادمة، أمة لك. كل صغيرة وكبيرة لازم تعملها لك. هذه هي الحقيقة. He says to her, my mom, she lives like a queen. You know something? We don't leave home without her permission. When it's time to eat, we don't eat until she starts eating. And we spend our days trying to do whatever we can for her, me and my kids. This is what our religion teaches us. And so she asked him, you know what I said earlier, calling to Allah doesn't mean you have to give lectures, blah. That's not what da'wah is necessarily. That's part of it, but that's not the main thing. Very often, our actions, as we say, speak louder than our words. What we do can have a greater impact. Look what happened here. She then asked him, so what is your religion? What is this religion that orders you to be good to your parents and even to an old lady like me? What kind of religion is that? He said, my religion is al-Islam. Do you know that as a result of that, this old lady became a Muslim? على كل حال كما ذكرت لكم القصص كثيرة ولكني أتوقف هنا وأذكر نفسي وإياكم وأسأل نفسي هل سمعنا يوما من آبائنا أو أمهاتنا وهم يقولون لك يا ولدي أنا راض عنك، يا بنتي أنا راض عنك. كلمات، هذه الكلمات من الأم أو من الأب، أنا راض عنك، أنا راضية عنك، تسوى الدنيا وما فيها. والله ثم والله. تصور أنك ترضي أمك أو أباك. أولا قلنا رضا الرب في رضا الوالدين. رضا الرب في رضا الوالدين. إذا رضي عنك أمك، إذا رضيت عنك أمك أو رضي عنك أبوك، أتدري ماذا ستقول؟ الله يرضى عليك يا ولدي، الله يرزقك، الله يعطيك كل خير. هكذا الآباء لا يريدون لأبنائهم إلا الخير. فعلينا جميعا أن نسعى لإرضاء آبائنا وأمهاتنا. عيب والله عيب أننا نهمل آباءنا وأمهاتنا، لا نسمع كلامهم. عيب. مو أنا اللي آمرك، ربك الذي يأمرك، الله الذي ستقف بين يديه سيسألك عن أمك وعن أبيك، عن أمك قبل أبيك. ماذا ستجيبه؟ ماذا ستجيب ربك؟ أحزنت أمك، أبكيت أمك، ما بك؟ لماذا فعلت ذلك؟ ماذا ستجيب؟ I have a lot more to say, but I'm going to stop with that story, but I'm going to stop and ask myself and the rest of you. When did you hear your mom say to you, or when did you hear your father say to you, you know what? I'm so happy with you. I am pleased with you. Do you know, just those words alone, I'm happy with you, they are worth this entire world and everything that is in it. They are more valuable than this world and everything that it contains. Yeah, you know why? Because remember the hadith? The hadith says that the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, the pleasure of the Lord, you want Allah to be pleased with you, please your parents. The pleasure of the Lord is in the pleasure of the parents. You know what? When your mom or dad says to you, I'm happy with you, I'm pleased with you, you are such wonderful children, guess what? They are then asking Allah that, oh Allah, make my son, make my daughter happy as they have made me happy. Just as they have pleased me, oh Allah, be pleased with them. Grant them every good in this world. They will make dua for you, not against you. How shameful that we ignore our parents. How shameful that we speak with them with utmost disrespect. We really need to be ashamed of ourselves and the way that we are dealing with your parents. It's not me that's telling you that you have to treat your parents well. No, it is Allah. Allah, the one before whom you will stand. Soon enough, you will have to answer to Allah. Don't worry about answering to any of us. What about when you're standing before Allah? You who brought tears to your mother's eyes. You who angered your father. When Allah asks you, why did you make your mother cry? Why did you disrespect your father in that way? What are you going to say? What answer do you have for Allah? And to your right is paradise, and to your left is the hellfire. I want that all of us remembers that picture. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Move forward please. تقدموا يا شباب. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا ابن آدم أحبب ما شئت فإنك مفارقه واعمل ما شئت فإنك ملاقيه وكن كما شئت فكما تدين تدان. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر من نصر الدين واخذل من خذل الدين. اللهم انصر المجاهدين في سبيلك في كل مكان. اللهم ثبت أقدامهم واربط على قلوبهم وأنزل السكينة عليهم وانصرهم على عدوهم وعدوك يا عزيز يا قوي. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان. اللهم خذ بأيديهم وعجل بنصرهم يا عزيز يا قوي. اللهم عليك بأعدائك أعداء الدين. اللهم عليك بأعدائك أعداء الدين. اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك. اللهم أرنا فيهم عجائب قدرتك. اللهم أرنا فيهم عجائب قدرتك. اللهم أرنا فيهم يوما أسودا. اللهم أرنا فيهم يوما أسودا. اللهم عليك بأمريكا وأعوانها. اللهم عليك بأمريكا وأعوانها. اللهم عليك بأمريكا وأعوانها. اللهم أرنا في ترامب ما لم يره أحد من العالمين. اللهم أرنا في ذلك المجرم ما لم يره أحد من العالمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في غزة. اللهم انصر إخواننا في غزة. اللهم ثبت أقدامهم. اللهم صبرهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصرهم على أعدائهم أعدائنا أعدائك أعداء الدين. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. قوموا إلى صلاتكم رحمكم الله.